Over this past winter, I made a plan with 5 other friends from Cochrane to ride in a cross-country mountain bike race in Pemberton, BC, just north of Whistler. So there is a point for me wearing shorts and shirt this morning, although some of you are nervous that the last ounce of decorum I had as a pastor was slipping out This is actually the first time in my life that I've ever preached in shorts, so I hope that you can hear the sermon despite my hairy legs this morning. I spent a lot of time getting ready for this race this past winter and this spring, as I spent lots of time on my bike and trying to get prepared. It was 35 kilometers of mountain biking with lots of climbing, close to 1,400 meters of elevation gained over that time, and a lot of technical descending, which is often the case on the West Coast. Finally, 2 Saturdays ago, all that planning and thinking and training was going to culminate in actually doing something. And as we drove out, the weather was a little sketchy, but it seemed that everything was going to come together except for that forecast, which was getting wetter and wetter every time I checked the Weather Network for an update. And I woke up on race day to rain coming down, and over the course of the day, the glacier on the top of Whistler would receive 40 centimeters of snow, even though it hadn't rained for the previous 6 weeks. And so as we got to the beginning of the race in Whistler, or in Pemberton, just north of Whistler, this is kind of the atmosphere that greets us. And I'm hoping this video is going to work for us this morning. If not, I'm going to have to pantomime what happened here. We'll see if it works. All right, before we let Snoop Dogg roll too far with his rap, I think I better cut it and I'm going to get in trouble. At that start line, there was all kinds of emotion that comes as you get ready, and especially for a race that's going to be in the pouring rain. There is, of course, the nervous energy that comes before any kind of a race. If you've done a running race or a bike race, you know a little bit about that. There's fear. I'd never been on this course before, and I knew that there was a steep descent that was rated Black Diamond. I wondered how that was going to be. I was scared about how the race was going to change the game. Would I fall and get hurt? Would I cramp up? And one of the group that was coming out with me had a personal policy not to race in heavy rain because it's too hard on the bike, it's too hard on the body. And he was, up until the very beginning of the race, getting ready to drop out. But the peer pressure of us laughing at him was too great, and he did finally line up with us at the start. The thing is, it was hard, it was wet. I did fall at a certain part on that descent. I went over my handlebars on a wet part of rock, and I stuck out my leg to try to brace myself, but I had already been biking for 20 kilometers, and it immediately cramped up, and I had to hobble down the descent a little bit as people asked if I was okay, and I just said I had a cramp, which seemed kind of wimpy. But in the end, I made it to the finish line safe and sound, and all of us who did the race were glad that we did it. And we were glad that we didn't play it safe. And we were celebrating that night as we went back to Whistler, and we had sushi. We told tales of the race rather than telling each other how it was interesting to watch the race unfold as other people got in the game. But it would have been sad to say, we sat on the sidelines. All of us actually felt like the rain and the terrain was not as big a factor in our day as we expected it to be. As we are here now in the middle of June, I feel that as a church family, we are on the start line of our own kind of race, so to speak. We've been talking about renovating this facility for almost 3 years now, and I think, are actually going to do this thing. We've been asking ourselves, how can this building be improved to help us on our mission to bless and transform the community of Cochrane? How can we, and this is the theme of our whole project, how can we open our doors to welcome the community in and use this space better as a place to launch us out? And this morning, because we are getting close to some very significant changes, I want to spend a little bit of time with you looking at the roadmap ahead of us as we launch very soon into the construction phase of our plan. And to be honest, I feel exhilarated and nervous and excited and scared, just like I did when I was on that start line in Pemberton 2 weeks ago. Perhaps there are some of you that are all over the map, just like those guys that were interviewed there. Some of you like, woohoo, let's do this. To, oh boy, El Nino, this is daunting. And as I stand and on the start line or at the beginning of the descent with you, I wish that I could answer all the questions that you've got and tell you, look, we know what is going to happen at every turn in the next few months. But as you know, I can't do that. But the more I've progressed on my journey as I've watched this process unfold, the more I am convinced that this is going to be a great ride. And as I look back on what God has done, I see His hand in so many ways, keeping us unified as a church family. We've had strong support from our membership as we voted 2 times on this. God has also opened your hearts to respond generously to the financial need, and we have, in the past year and a half, raised almost $1.1 million and also financed our regular ministry during that time. And you don't know all the details of all the little challenges and roadblocks our building committee has faced over the past year or so, but many of those have been overcome in very simple, straightforward ways where I see God clearing the way for us. And our intention this morning is just to give you some information so that you can know what's ahead and get prepared for the ride that's about to come. And so first, I wonder if you would welcome with me Ken Morris, the co-chair of our building committee, as well as Larry Fournier, who is our construction manager with NVR Construction. Would you welcome them to the platform as we ask them a few questions? So, Ken, we're just going to start with you, and the guy in the suit took up a lot of time this morning, so we're going to try to go through these quickly. Ken, first of all, I just want to say thank you for your leadership on the building committee, along with Bill Popwell, your co-chair, as well as the other members of the building committee who've been doing a lot of meetings lately. I'm so glad for the team that we've got. Can you tell us what needs to happen before we can do demolition behind our sanctuary and begin the construction process?
Sure, thanks, Jason. There's quite a few items we still need to do, but they're moving along. We're still waiting for our development permit to be issued by the town. That needs to happen. Once that comes into play, then we'll be applying for our building permit. And we still need to complete our final drawings. We were at 50% about a week ago or so we should be hopefully 100% drawings done for the building permit by the end of July. Then we need to still put the work out to tender, and then we need to approve the trades and the final budget. And then last of all, get Larry's crew in here to start taking things apart.
Okay, so a big part of the process is getting the development permit from the town, as well as concluding this land transfer process that we talked about a month ago. Where are we in that development permit process and land swap process with the town?
So with the development permit, we've probably had that to the town for 3 months or so now, and we've been going back and forth with info that they needed. We believe at this time they've got everything, but if they need something more, our architects are right on top of that to get it quickly. And we're hoping by the end of June we have that development permit in our hands. Okay. With the land transfer, that's just a process now. Probably, I'm hoping by the end of July it's done, but that will not hold up the development.
So we can begin construction even though the legalities of the transfer aren't quite complete?
Yeah, that's correct. They said that's not a hold up, it's just a time issue to get that finished.
Okay, so the big question that everyone has in their mind is, when are we going to actually begin this? When are we going to move out of here so that Larry's teams can move in and begin doing stuff? So give us an exact date.
You know, that's a question Jason's asked me probably 10 or 15 times. And I wish I could give you an exact date, but it's really coming down to the development permit has to come in first. So we're praying that that happens. Once the development permit hits our table, that we've got it from the town, we can now put pretty firm dates in place. So in a perfect world, we would get that at the end of June. And right after that, we'd start to put our tenders out to the trades and go through that process in our budget and make sure we have that all in place. Again, perfect world, that would be July 15th to July 30th. We're bringing Larry's crew in to start demo, and we're moving forward. But that development permit is key right now.
Okay. Larry, as we're doing some collaboration as a building committee working with the town, what is going on between you and our architects right now?
Well, basically, all winter, what we've been doing with the architects is working through details and taking information from the building committee and basically communicating that to the consultants. And then at the same time, them coming back to us with questions and getting those questions answered. So that's kind of been the big process throughout the whole winter.
Okay.
So
once we actually get on this July 30th date that Ken has now guaranteed us, how long is this going to take to build and bring to completion?
we're basically looking at a 10-month process here from start to finish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Does that come with a money-back guarantee as well, Larry?
I wish it did, yes.
All right. Why do we have to leave this facility? So obviously that's a big disruption to our ministry, how we do worship like this on Sundays. Why do we have to get out of here while you guys are building stuff?
Yeah, I realize that it's a huge disruption to your ministry, to your gathering spot, but unfortunately there's a huge amount of work that we have to do within the existing facility that's remaining. There's a new sprinkler system, there's this new fire alarm system, but as well, all the services have to be upgraded, which means we're cutting off all the existing services. As well, the existing washroom locations are part of the demo, so that leads to issues with occupancy when you have no washroom facilities. So there's just so much work that has to happen with the entire facility that it would be really unsafe to stay here.
Okay. As you've been working on these blueprints and these plans, which look a little whited out, it will be darker when we actually move in. Are there any unique challenges, anything unique about this project as you are getting the plans together and looking at building it?
Well, the architects have designed an absolute gorgeous new addition to your facility, but it's all wood frame construction, and it has some challenges on getting it framed properly so that it actually lines up with your existing facility, as well as all the new services that have to come in. That the challenge is coordinating all that. That's one of the biggest challenges.
Okay. On our end, one of the challenges always is managing budget. So how are we doing? The plan was for total construction budget and ancillary budget of about $4.2 million. How are we doing?
We're looking really good on that. Over the last month, I'd say the building committee and ourselves have communicated to the architects some changes to the original design to meet those challenges and to meet that budget. So right now, I think I'm fairly confident that we'll meet that budget.
Okay, excellent news. There are probably some contractors, business owners here that do everything from drywalling to plumbing to being an electrician. If they want to get in on this tender process, what do they need to do to get involved?
They need to send me an email, which they could get I think Yolanda has my email. Send me an email. The only thing is I have them fill out a simple pre-qualification form. It's just to determine their history, make sure that they're actually capable of doing the work that they want to bid on. It's not trying to ixnay them or anything. We would love to include as many local trades in this process as possible.
Okay, very good. Would you give a hand to these men who are working hard for us on our behalf? So if we are working on this site for a year, I know the big question on many of your minds is what happens with worship services and ministry while we are out of this facility. So to the where question, we are planning, and we're very grateful for our friends at Bow Valley Baptist Church. That is the plan, to meet here beginning, we hope, mid to late July for the next 10 or so months. We did. Many of you have asked us, hey, have you fully exhausted other options so that we could continue to meet on Sunday mornings? We did investigate places like the Spray Lake Sawmill Rec Center, the theater in town. Neither of those places are available on Sundays. The theater does movie showings for fundraising purposes on Sunday mornings. The rec center is under its own renovation project, so they're unable to host us. Rocky View schools are unavailable as a block, and the schools that are available in town were very, very, very expensive to rent on a weekly basis. So we enacted this plan to meet at Bow Valley. Bow Valley Baptist has a larger sanctuary. Their seating capacity is approximately 100 more than ours, so we can comfortably accommodate all of us together in one service each week. And Sunday school, all the rooms, of course, are set up for Sunday school ministry. We will continue to do Sunday school as we do now, perhaps a few adjustments depending on age groups, but nothing altogether different than you would experience here as we relaunch Sunday school ministry in the fall. We also need some office space. And so we have rented a 4-bedroom townhome at the Canadian Southern Baptist Seminary. It improves our view a little bit from here. We believe that we can house the entire staff team in that house, and also have a spot where we can use for having small meetings in the evening. We also have secured space from the community room at Cochrane Toyota, and we have negotiated a semi-deal with the Baptist Church for midweek use if we need it for other kind of ministries. So we've got the use of Bow Valley Baptist. Some youth group things will take place there. We've got the community room on a weekly basis. But we also hope this might be a unique time for us to experiment with doing ministry a little bit differently. We often say the church is the church as a group of people. It's not the building. This is a time that we're going to actually get to play with that reality and see how it works as we don't have a space that we can use at will. The other big question I know that you've been asking is, okay, that's the where. I guess we can make that work. When? When are we going to do church? Because, of course, Bow Valley Baptist, it's their house. We can't say, we'd like to use your facility and we'd like to use it at the same time you usually do. So in April, we came to you as a church family to ask particularly on that issue of weekend service times. And we heard back from 145 of you when we did that survey. So thank you for giving us some feedback. This is our conclusion. It seems that the best time of week to hold our weekend service worship gatherings are Sundays at 4 p.m. That was the best option when we considered what was your first choice. Also, the vast majority of you said it could work for you at that time, even if it wasn't your first choice. And actually, as we got down, it was only between 3 and 5% of those who responded said that in no way, shape, or form could Sunday at 4 p.m. work. When we started also taking into account those of you who serve in some capacity on the weekends, whether that's teaching Sunday school, ushering, greeting, leading worship, it became very clear when we looked at those of you who make Sundays happen that Sunday afternoon is the best option. And so, one service from 4 to 5:30-ish. Those of you who tend to know here that our ending service time is a work in progress. But 4 to 5:30 Sunday afternoons is our plan. And we anticipate that new format to begin sometime, according to Ken's guaranteed move-out date, mid-July, late July. As soon as we can peg a specific date, we will let you know. So, I know it's not Sunday morning. And there are some of you here who've been going to church on Sunday morning for 75 years, and it's hard to imagine going to church any other time during the week. But just think of the benefits. You can sleep in on Sunday mornings. You can go away for the weekend and still get back for church at 4 o'clock on Sundays. All of us get to be together for one service, and as you know, it's kind of cool to be together all at one time. And it is a fantastic time for us to go out for supper afterwards, right? You get to go out to lunch now, or you can go for supper then. But I do want to say this. As we began wondering about this time away from our base, we began asking ourselves, how can we not just survive? How can we not just make it while this is being changed here? Could we use the season out of the building as a time to experiment with some new ideas? And that is where the idea of house churches were birthed. And I wonder if you can welcome Mike back to the platform to help explain what house churches are going to look like.
Okay, let me just go back a few years to my 15th wedding anniversary with my wife, Becky. To celebrate, we traveled to Dublin to visit my sister and see the sights over there. And one of the sights we went to see was the National Gallery of Ireland. And that is where we came across this 19th century painting by an Irish artist named Aloysius O'Kelly. And it's called Mass in a Connemara Cabin. When I saw this picture, I was moved. In fact, I had to have a copy of it, and that was my best souvenir from Ireland, and I keep that copy on my desk. Because when I look at it, I see ordinary people having communion with each other and with God in houses, and it reminds me of the long and proud tradition that house churches have in Christianity. If you go right back to the very beginnings, you read Acts chapter 2, it says that after those thousands of people found faith, they met in homes and broke bread together, and they also praised God in the temple. And you think even all down through the centuries, times in Ireland, and even up to today, the millions of Christians who meet in house churches in China alone. If you ask me, house churches is where it's at. I know I'm not supposed to have favorites or whatever, but I think house church is the best. There's just something that happens when God's church is scattered throughout the neighborhoods, throughout the countryside, where the possibilities are endless. And so, as Jason's already mentioned, we think that right now is a great opportunity to begin experimenting with house churches, to see what new ways that God can use our church family in the community, as well as find new ways that God can bless us as a church family. So I just want to briefly answer maybe a few questions at the top of your mind. We have a whole FAQ sheet of questions with information about house church on our church website. You just go to the adult ministries page and you'll find a link to it. But some of those questions I want to answer right away. First off, what exactly is a house church? It's very simple. We're going to say that any 3 households that get together on a weekly basis to express their devotion to Jesus through scripture, fellowship, hospitality, worship, and prayer. Those are all things straight out of Acts 2, if you read Acts 2:42. Those are the things. So 3 households getting together just to do those simple, basic things that we've been doing since the beginning of Christianity, that's a house church. And okay, so what does that mean then? If I'm part of a house church, does that mean I have to come to church on Sundays too? And now this may sound really weird, but yeah, we're actually saying, don't come. If this is your church expression, this is your church expression. Now, that doesn't mean that you're off on your own or whatever. We plan on having many times where we're going to all gather together as one big church family. We want to commission these house churches in September. We've got all the high holidays throughout the year where we can celebrate Christmas and Easter and other important occasions. We are going to get together from time to time. But for those of us who want to experiment with house church, this is your church expression. This is your church experience. So, what happens if I'm in for this? What kind of support would I get? What if I want to join? Okay. Well, first off, you can start that process by getting one of these from me today. This is an inquiry form. It's also available in a fillable PDF on the website if you don't find me today. But grab one of these and just fill it out. It's just a little inquiry form that just expresses your interest in house church. And for those of you who feel like you're being led into maybe having a leadership role in one of these experiments, we are going to take the summer as a preparation period. We're putting together some training videos. We're going to have some pilot house church experiences over the summer, and the idea is we would launch. So some of the support you're going to get is that training. And then throughout the year, another part of the support is Melanie and I have been working hard on finding good mixed-age Sunday school curriculum so that there's something for a mixed bag of kids who are all different ages. We're working on good discussion material to provide to adults. And so there's all kinds of resources that are available. And then thirdly, the other kind of support you're going to get is just partnership. As a pastoral staff, we want to support these house churches and help them flourish. And we're here to help any way we can. So those are just a few of the ways that you'll get support in the house church experience. So lastly, how do I get involved? Like I said, you can... several of you have already expressed interest to me, and even if you have, I'd encourage you, please take one of these today. You can find them in the foyer. You can get them from me. You can find them on the website. Please, this is kind of our way of gathering the information on all the people who are interested. There's a place there where you can indicate what kind of leadership you might be curious about being involved with. We're looking for people who can facilitate and MC the gatherings. We're looking at people who can coordinate communication for each of the little house churches. And we're looking for people who can host, make sure that we have a place prepared where people can gather to worship and meet with each other. And that's about it in a nutshell. It's going to be a great opportunity to try something new, be on an adventure together with other families, and God only knows what can come out of this. I've always been curious, because I've been doing house church for many years in Montreal before I moved here, and anytime it's ever come up in conversation, the first response has always been curiosity. And so we're doing this for us as a church family, but at the same time, you never know that there may be people who would never think twice about ever donning the doors of a brick and mortar church like this. But you never know. Maybe a house church is just what they need. So I'll leave that with you. Please come and talk to me anytime. Pick up one of these inquiry forms, and I'd love to chat further with you about that. Now Yolanda's going to come up with some practical details here for us.
Good morning again. I just want to let you know how it is that you can be involved in us packing up this building. Before I do that, though, I just want to give a quick shout out to Marcia Miller. Those of you who come into the church during the week will know Marcia. She's one of the office assistants here. I suspect that many of you don't know who she is. But Marcia has just put in countless hours for working on the logistics of how we're going to move, how we're going to get CCANs here, where we're going to rent, timing of things, and planning our packing parties. So I just wanted to say a big thank you to her for all the work that she's put into that. And those of you who have been here long enough to have been a part of this build in the sanctuary that we're currently sitting in will recall what it was like when we were all here working together. And there was just this great sense of fellowship and camaraderie as some people worked, some people brought refreshments, some people brought meals. And even though that was almost 20 years ago, as a staff, we still hear those stories. And we're hoping that as we move and as we work to pack up here, that we can have that same experience. If you happen to get a paper bulletin, you will see an insert that lists our packing parties. We have that divided up into some very small sections, mostly 2 to 4 hours. We've listed what it is that we're packing up. We have some heavy lifting days. We have some full days. On those full days, we're requesting that people would help us out with meals. So if you would go to our website, CochraneAlliance.com, you can sign up there. You can pick which packing party you want. And we would just love to get together and have time of fellowship while we're in the midst of packing up our stuff. Thank you.
I don't want it. Okay, we hope that between Sunday afternoons at Bow Valley Baptist and some of you experimenting with house churches, that there is a way for everybody to engage in worshiping God with others. We call that corporate worship. We don't think it's a good idea for people to follow Jesus by themselves. It can be done, but it's very, very unusual. The model presented to us in Scripture is that we are part of a body and that we follow Jesus best when we are doing that with other people. So, again, we hope that we can accommodate the lion's share of that kind of corporate worship experience by using one of these two options. I recognize that for some of you here today, maybe some who are not here today, that may not be possible, that it doesn't work on Sunday afternoons, and for whatever reason, it doesn't work to be part of a house church. If so, could I ask you that you let us know, and we can discuss a way for you to fellowship regularly with other believers here as we go through this season of renovating the facility, and we would love to talk about a way that we can make it work and continue to be in fellowship with you. I know that you have many questions that we haven't been able to answer in this kind of time that we've just used right now. I invite you to go to our homepage, CochraneAlliance.com, and there is a whole section of Open the Door FAQs that we have just updated with all the stuff about our time away, the building process, finances, building plans. All of that has been recently updated, and we hope that you can get your answers there. We also invite you to connect with members of the building committee during the barbecue. They're going to be out floating. They have name tags on, just like Ken was wearing. So look for those. Larry is also going to be here around having a meal with us. We thank him for spending some time on a Sunday. So go ahead and ask your questions, and they would love to talk with you. And in the meantime, we do ask for your help as we do the practical work of doing this. In conclusion, we are actually going to do this. It's not just talking now. This is actually going to happen. Some of you have gone through a building process in this church or in another church before. I, as a leader, never have. And like I said, all those start line emotions are with me right now. But I do believe that this is going to be a great ride. Although, like I said, I can't promise a forecast of smooth trails and sunny skies all the way to next June. I can't do that. But I believe, we believe in a God who has brought his people through challenging terrain before, right? We really do believe that, right? Just as an example, I was looking through some Psalms a couple weeks ago, and the Hebrew people, one of the disciplines they used whenever they were getting jittery at the start line, whenever it appeared to them that the suffering or the opposition or the obstacles in their life were too great to overcome, they practiced this discipline of remembering the deeds that God had already done in the past. And their favorite remembrance was to remember how God had brought them out of Egypt into the promised land. Let me give you an example. I promise I'm not going to talk about this for long, so don't worry, we're not starting a sermon right now. Just it's a little devotional, okay? So Psalm 77 starts out this way. I cried out to God for help. I cried out to God to hear me. When I was in distress, I sought the Lord at night. I stretched out untiring hands, and my soul refused to be comforted. So I'm in this situation, whatever it is, I'm crying out to God, and he doesn't seem to be there. Then, verse 10, then I thought, to this I will appeal, the years of the right hand of the Most High. I will remember the deeds of the Lord. Yes, I will remember your miracles of long ago. I will meditate on your works and consider all your mighty deeds. And then he gets specific. Your ways, O God, are holy. What God is so great as our God? You are the God who performs miracles. You display your power among the peoples. With your mighty arm, you redeemed your people, the descendants of Jacob and Joseph. And then he remembers going through the Red Sea. The waters saw you, O God. The waters saw you and writhed. The very depths were convulsed. The clouds poured down water. The skies resounded with thunder. Your arrows flashed back and forth. Your thunder was heard in the whirlwind. Your lightning lit up the world. The earth trembled and quaked. Your path led through the sea, your way through the mighty waters, though your footprints were not seen. You led your people like a flock by the hand of Moses and Aaron. I am, if I'm honest right now, a little overwhelmed. But my God turned a river into blood and made it turn dark for 3 days in Egypt. My God brought his people out of slavery and brought them through the Red Sea when it seemed there was no way for them to go. He destroyed the Egyptian army who had all the guns and all the ammunition. And if he can do that, surely he can help us in our situation right now. If our God has raised Jesus Christ from the dead, then surely a construction project that is going to mean some time away from our building and services a few hours later than usual is not going to faze God very much. Can we promise that there are going to be no twists and turns, that everything is going to be perfect? No. But neither was it a straight path for the people of Israel to the promised land either. A journey that should have taken them 3 weeks ended up taking 40 years. Oh, Lord, please, not 40 years away. But God was faithful, and I believe he continues to be faithful today. And think of all the unique opportunities and ways we can serve people as we go through this project, and some of the unique ways that God may be calling us to lean into once we get to the other side of this project. There will be stories we'll be telling when we're done this section of the race. And so I want to invite you in the next month to 6 weeks to strap on your biking shorts or shoes. I don't know if you strap on biking shorts, whatever you need. I know that your emotions are varied. Again, some from excitement, let's do this, to some like, I don't know, this seems risky to me. And let's lean into something, believing that the God of Israel is on our side, that he wants to use us and bless us, and that taking risks, stepping into new things is actually a way to see him work in ways we've never seen him work before. And I'm wondering, as a way to get ready for this, if we could spend just a couple minutes praying together. I want you to find 2 or 3 people around you. If you're uncomfortable praying out loud, that's okay. You can pray by yourself if you are, and you'd be comfortable finding someone. Here's a few prayer requests for a swift conclusion of the development and building permit process with the town. Again, finances are always a need. For unity as a church in this season of change. For fruitfulness in our house churches and our ministries this next year as it looks a little different. And for the building committee and construction team as we lead the way. Would you spend, and I'm going to conclude, but just find some people if you are more comfortable praying yourself. But let's just have some prayer time together as a church family as we get ready to do this. You've got about 3-4 minutes, and then I'll circle us up. We want to start in a place of gratitude for your goodness and the ways you have worked before. The big picture is already taken care of. Our future through Jesus Christ is secure. We don't even need to fear death because you've taken care of that in advance. And yet we are here on the beginning of a journey that we can't quite see what the other side looks like. We can't quite see how the way through will work. But we are choosing as a family to step out in faith so that we can be of greater blessing in this community which you have placed us. I do want to thank you for the 2 times that we have done this before as a church family. Some of those people who originally built the first phase of this building are still here and can remember being at the start line there, and you provided, and you saw a way through, and you blessed the ministry as a result of that sacrifice and that stepping out. And then about 20 years ago, we did it again as a church family. We had meetings and we wondered, can we pay for this? And will it actually work out? And can we see our way through? And here we are today in this room, really standing on the backs of those people, of that vision, of that generosity and that sacrifice. And so we're here again. We recognize from the very beginning that building things, wood and bricks, stucco, that's not the only way that we get involved in building your kingdom, but it is one way. And we, at our hearts, we want this facility to be used in ways that glorify you, that disciple kids, that teach adults and equip them to be your people in this community, that teaches the Word of God, and also a space that invites people in warmly, where we can exercise hospitality to the groups and friends and neighbors who also want to do good for the community of Cochrane. And with that vision in mind, and with an imagination that's big, and your imagination, Lord, is way bigger than ours, we're stepping out. And I pray that you would meet us in our place of excitement, of anticipation, of questioning, of fear, of anxiety, and that you would take care of us through this process. Keep us united as a family. Open our eyes to the new opportunities we have during this season. Would you provide for us? The need is great. We are stepping out in faith without knowing exactly how we can do all this, especially given the climate of our economy right now. We ask that you would provide, that we would be able to tell stories of how you made a way through the sea. I pray that you would enable your people to give generously, provide for work. Many of us are wondering about that even for ourselves and our own homes. And I ask that we would see your hand at work in the families that are looking to you that way. And we ask that we would, just like your people throughout the centuries have said, look at what God has done in my life. Look at what God has done in my church, that we would be those who tell stories of your goodness, of your delivering as we exercise our faith. And we trust you to do it, and we ask for your help and your blessing as we enter this unique season this summer. We pray these things in Jesus' name, amen.